You are listening to the Body Charge podcast, and I'm your host, Sandy Sanderson. Welcome to the Body Charge podcast. Today's topic is how medical cannabis can help autoimmune conditions. Chronic pain and unrelenting inflammation are very debilitating symptoms, causing excessive stress and even depression. Why are standard treatments like opioids and ketamine-type drugs failing to help people resolve their health problems? Are there natural alternatives that are more effective to treat these conditions without such dangerous side effects? Yes, it seems there are. My special guest today, Dr. Joseph Rosado, one of the world's most respected medical authorities on cannabis as plant-based medicine. With over 4 decades of experience as a healthcare professional, he has written multiple articles for medical journals as well as 7 books, including the bestselling Hope and Healing, The Case for Cannabis. So welcome aboard, Dr. Joseph. It's really lovely to have you on the Body Charge podcast.
It's a pleasure to be there or be here
Yeah.
and there virtually.
Yes, here in this global space.
Yes, and good morning to you because I understand it's 9:30
Yes,
a.m.
in the morning.
Wednesday.
We're
And
time travelers. We're ahead of you guys.
yes, it's 6:30 p.m. Eastern uh daylight savings time because I'm on the East Coast of the United States as we are speaking today.
Yes. Well, it's lucky we can find a time window to communicate, thanks to technology.
Yes.
My first question is, what is the connection between chronic inflammation, pain, and depression? They all kind of seem to go together at the same time.
Very much so. The most common issue with pretty much all dis-ease or lack of ease is some form or some type of inflammation. And as a result of that inflammation, you then end up with a certain level of pain or discomfort. It has been shown that when you experience pain, certain hormones that are produced in your brain, specifically serotonin levels, drop, which is why one of the most common antidepressants prescribed are what are called SSRIs or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. That's a mouthful. What that means
Yep.
in lay term is that it prevents the breakdown of the serotonin, and so it allows for there to be a reuptake. It allows for it to maintain at a steady state rather than going down. And when you experience pain, those levels tend to drop.
Yes, and it's very, very distressing. So my business is Elektra Magnesium, and we supply magnesium transdermally, so lotions, creams, sprays. Um, and it's a very natural way to absorb magnesium. And what we found over many years, since 2009, is that there's a growing need in the community for extra magnesium because we lose it excessively under stress. So stress is the big one. And if we don't replenish, recharge, recover, then we keep scraping the bottom of the barrel. It keeps getting less and less, and then we have less resources, we have less resilience, we can't deal with things, we get over emotional, very, very sensitive. And then we start to see physical symptoms of breakdown of the whole being because we're not replenishing. So stress is a really big factor. And the Body Charge podcast is about trying to find ways or strategies people can use in a natural way to help stay strong, to recover, without relying so heavily on the drug scenario because of the terrible debilitating side effects that are potentially there, that sometimes cause worse problems than the original disease.
Very true.
Yeah, so why are the standard treatments failing? Let's have a look at what's going wrong in the system when people have excessive stress, traumas, PTSD, and they go to the doctor. The doctor can prescribe, medications. If they're depressed, they'll give them, you know, antidepressants or whatever, or if they're in excessive pain. So there's different ways for people to express their inability to cope with stress. So um, I would like to find out what the standard protocol is that most doctors use to deal with these conditions and why they are not helping people to recover.
Excellent question. And the challenge is that most physicians um, are treating symptoms. And by addressing the symptom and not the root cause of the problem, hence, that's the challenge. And that's why a lot of patients will be on a host of medications, anti-anxiety medications, antidepressant medications, uh, analgesics, different types of medications to address and treat symptoms, but not the root cause. And you hit truly the nail on the head. Because of the stress and dis-ease or lack of ease that we are going through in your specialty, magnesium levels are depressed, they're decreased. In my area of expertise in managing patients with cannabis, we produce cannabis in our bodies. About a year ago, you had a guest discussing the endocannabinoid system,
Yes.
and that is a reality. Unfortunately, less than 10% of the medical schools in the United States educate physicians on the endocannabinoid system. And what that is we have a system in our body that produces cannabis, works on those receptors. And their structure is very, very similar to that found in hemp as well as the cannabis plants. And when we undergo a certain level of trauma, stress, pain, etc., those levels are depleted. We don't produce as much. Also, as we age, we don't produce as much. And so to replenish that, we must receive it exogenously from the outside in to be able to bring those levels to what we call homeostasis or balance. One of our very well-known scientists in the cannabis world, Dr. Ethan Rousseau, coined the term clinical endocannabinoid deficiency. And in 2016, he wrote a very elegant research paper where he found, upon his research, that the three most common conditions linked to clinical endocannabinoid deficiency were fibromyalgia, irritable bowel syndrome, and um, migraine headaches. Upon further investigation, he discovered that any chronically debilitating condition can fall under that clinical endocannabinoid deficiency definition. So, post-traumatic stress disorder, autoimmune diseases, failure to thrive in children, uh, diabetes type 1, again, considered an autoimmune disease. And so that's where the conventional thought is failing the population because they're targeting the symptoms rather than addressing the cause of the problem and then replenishing those deficiencies.
Yeah, the root cause or the core of it. So let's go back to the endocannabinoid system. So it's associated with the vagus nerve. So it's a neural system, a nervous system, a signaling system. So it sends and receives messages up and down the stem, the whole digestive system. So when something goes wrong with that endocannabinoid system, it has a neural effect, doesn't it? It affects the mental health of someone as well as the physical health because the messaging system isn't working properly. So when we have the facility of medical cannabis, and we'll go into the differences between street cannabis and medical cannabis as well, but
Mhm.
just but very basically, what is that cannabis plant chemical, and it is a natural chemical. What is it doing to satisfy that neuroendocrine, that vagus nerve, that nervous signaling system where the messages aren't working? How does it fix that problem?
Okay. Well, It's not only found in the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is a peripheral nerve, and CBD works primarily on the peripheral nervous system and um, retic the endocrine system as well as the immune system. We have CB1 receptors, we have CB2 receptors, as well as other receptors.
They're all over
The
the body,
They're all over the body, from the top of your head all the way down to the sole of your feet, and from the skin inward, because you have cannabinoid receptors on your skin.
which is why massage works so well.
Exactly. Massaging with cannabinoid oils, it's absorbed through the skin and works on the cannabinoid system, the receptors found on the skin. And so THC primarily works on the CB1 receptor, which is found in the brain and spinal cord or the central nervous system. And CBD works on the CB2 receptor, found, as I stated earlier, in the peripheral nervous system and the immune system. So white blood cells, bone marrow, etc. But CB1, CB2 receptors are also found in the sex organs, in the digestive system, in the lungs, etc. And so once the beauty and magic of the plant is that wherever there is a deficiency, it will target those specific areas because we have those receptors everywhere. Everyone wants to um, villainize, make the THC the villain. And if cannabis were a cowboy, a Western cowboy movie from the United States, the THC would be the cowboy dressed in black, and the CBD would be the cowboy dressed in white, because everybody wants to elevate CBD and downplay
Yeah, the
THC.
marshal.
Exactly. And the reality is that there's a concept coined by the one of our pioneers, Raphael Mechoulam. He coined the term entourage effect, where they all work together.
In
So
synergies.
imagine, if you will, you go to the symphony, you go to the orchestra,
Hmm.
and you have the percussion section, the woodwind section, the string section, the brass section, and all individually make wonderful music. But once you combine them, it's even more pleasing and pleasant to the ear. At one time, you may hear a solo of the brass section or the woodwind section or the string section, but it's just for a short span of time, and then they all come back in and work and
Harmonize.
harmonize under the direction of the composer. And so that's how the cannabis plant works in our bodies. Because we have multiple receptors, the plant, which contains in excess of 140 phytocannabinoids. In Australia, you guys call them phytonutrients.
Mhm.
We use the terminology phytocannabinoids because they're phyto, meaning plant, that work on the cannabinoid receptors in our
Yes, it's
bodies.
more accurate. Hmm.
It's more specific, exactly. And by doing so, you're able to obtain that homeostasis, that balance.
And it works on the parasympathetic system, doesn't it? Because when we're in fight or flight, when we've had trauma, stresses, we're in sympathetic mode. You've got to get away from the danger, or you perceive a danger. And when the body can't relax from that perception of danger, it keeps churning up very destructive byproducts in the body, reactive oxygen species, free radicals, and we get cell damage. So we need to have a way to shut that off. And this is part of the autoimmune system. So when things go wrong and the regulation system doesn't come in, the immune system can stay on high alert, um, always perceiving a danger, even when the danger's not there, and then start to destroy its own cells. So how does the medical cannabis address that kind of problem in the body when the immune system doesn't know how to shut down when it's not in danger anymore?
Well, as you made mention about the free radicals, the beauty of CBD, for example, as well as other phytocannabinoids, particularly the mother phytocannabinoid, which is CBGA, that then converts to CBG at 55 degrees Celsius. It's a chemical process. Once it attains that temperature of 55 degrees Celsius, it decarboxylates, meaning the acid form, the CBGA, A standing for acid, contains a carboxyl group. Now, if you're not a biochemist or an organic chemist, what that is COOH. It's carbon, two oxygens, and a hydrogen. That's removed and it's decarboxylated, and now you have the active form. Well, CBD is an excellent antioxidant, but CBG is 5 times more powerful than CBD as an antioxidant.
Wow.
THC is 20 times more powerful than aspirin as an anti-inflammatory and twice as powerful as hydrocortisone or cortisone as an anti-inflammatory. So now you've got an antioxidant and an anti-inflammatory working together to address the inflammation, the free radical production, etc., with just those two chemicals. I mentioned earlier that there's an excess of 140 chemicals in the plant, which is why I always recommend and propose the use of the whole plant because each specific phytocannabinoid has a specific function within the body.
Well, that makes sense. A holistic approach because we don't always know everything that um, that those 140 different plant chemicals do. And that requires further research. And I hope they do a lot more research because this is potentially an area that can save a lot of lives and just turn people's lives around, if it's done the right way. But as you said before, it's got a stigma because of street cannabis, and that has been destructive in some ways with people creating certain addictions or leading them to other types of addiction. So, can you explain the difference between that street cannabis and the medicinal cannabis grown under very strict control conditions?
Sure. Well, the systems are slightly different between Australia and the United States. For example, in Australia it was legalized, I understand, in October of 2016, approximately 8 years ago. Um, in
Decriminalized.
yes, in the United States, however, medicinally, it was legalized or decriminalized in 1996 in California, one state of 50 states. So even though these are the
But a big
United States
one.
of, yeah, even though these are the United States of America, each state has its own rules and regulations. So in the state where I live and practice medicine, which is Florida, we did not have any laws until 2016. That's when the state of Florida in November decriminalized. We voted to decriminalize cannabis for medicinal purposes in
Mm,
November of 2016.
yeah,
We
same
did
here.
not have any real laws because we voted for it, but the laws was not signed by our governor until June 23rd of 2017. Now, why do I know that date? Because my birthday is June 24th.
Ah,
And I said that the governor of the state of Florida signed the law the day before my birthday as my birthday present. And so that's my story and I'm sticking to it. But
mhm.
in our state, we have third-party testing that occurs, independent testing. So we have dispensaries in Australia, your main product is called nabiximol, which the trade name is Sativex, and it's purchased in a pharmacy because it is a medication that's registered and used in
Yeah,
Canada, the
it's
UK.
licensed. Yeah.
Exactly. In the United States, we have certain products that are licensed under the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, and the FDA, which is comparable to your GTA,
TGA, yes. Yeah.
PGA. That was my dyslexia. I'm sorry. But um, our regulatory systems, we have certain medications, but they come from, they are synthetics. They are not the plant. The plant in its natural state is considered a Schedule 1, which means that it is highly addictive and has no medicinal value. And they equate that with heroin, MDMA, ecstasy, etc. Narcotics, opiates are a Schedule 2. The synthetic version of cannabis, known as dronabinol, trade name Marinol, is a Schedule 3. So you see that from the natural state to the synthetic state, there's quite a bit of a difference. I can call in a prescription to the pharmacy, and within 90 minutes, the patient will have the synthetic version. But the natural, and their insurance will pay for it. The natural version is not. And so, but back to the original question regarding street cannabis and medicinal cannabis. In your area, it's legalized and it's monitored because it is a pharmaceutical grade medicine. In the state of Florida, we have third-party testers that provide what is called a certificate of analysis, or COA for short. And the certificate of analysis has a breakdown of what phytocannabinoids are there in what percentages, as well as the terpenes, which are what give the plant the smell and taste, as well as any toxins or toxicities or heavy metals. And so all of that information is provided, and when the patient goes there, it's all on a QR code. You take a picture of the QR code and automatically it prints out and you see what is in the bottle that
Yeah,
you're
because
about to purchase.
I heard that cannabis has a propensity to take up heavy metals from the soil it grows in. So a lot depends on the growing conditions, doesn't it?
Very much so, particularly hemp. Hemp, I understand, I don't know this to be certain, but I've heard that when the accident occurred, the nuclear accident occurred in Russia in Chernobyl, what they used to clean the soil were hemp plants. And prior to the Farm Bill of 2018 in the United States of America, where it was signed into law that in the United States hemp could be grown, prior to that, people were obtaining hemp, the raw product, from China and the Ukraine. And those were very toxic because they use certain pesticides that are not legal in the United States. And there was some heavy metal in there, like mercury and lead. And CBD, because hemp contains primarily CBD, not a whole lot of THC, that was given a lot to a lot of the children to help them with seizures and autism and attention deficit disorders. And now these children were ending up with lead poisoning and mercury toxicities. And because they were not being regulated, they were not being tested properly. So to avoid that, that's what's done. Also, a big challenge in the United States is that cannabis, street cannabis, many times is laced or combined with other less favorable things, such as fentanyl, which is a strong narcotic,
Yes.
which kills quickly, cocaine, and PCP, also known as angel dust. They're laced with these things, making the purchaser of these products, at the mercy of who's selling it to them. So
Yes.
what I tell my
Trying to
patients,
lead them into something more hardcore.
exactly, because everybody wants to label cannabis as the gateway drug. And one of my colleagues in the United States, Dr. Uma, a physician in Massachusetts, um, coined the term, it is an exit drug, not a gateway drug. It is an exit from many medications that people are on that can be replaced by the cannabis. And towards the end, I understand that you're I'll be discussing a specific case of an individual
Yes.
who I helped get off of multiple medications with cannabis.
Yes, please explain how that works because a lot of people have addictions to mainstream medicines as well that are damaging the liver and doing all sorts of undesirable things. So, how does someone wean off um, drugs, medications that are not helpful to them anymore and are which are causing worse problems?
Well, first and foremost, you have to find a physician that is knowledgeable in cannabis, first and foremost, and understands how cannabis works in conjunction with conventional treatments, conventional medications. This individual patient, um, she started under my care in late 2017. She was 45 years of age at that time, and she was taking between 42 and 58 pills per day, not per week, not per month, per day.
Mm.
And they included antidepressants, anti-anxiety, ADD, ADHD medication, narcotics, but also migraine medication.
Yeah.
But also, together with that, she was also on medications to offset the side effects and
Yes.
adverse effects of the medications that she was on.
Which is often magnesium deficiency, cramps, restless legs, all sorts of nutritional deficiencies can come from that.
Exactly. And so that combination, and for example, narcotics cause constipation. So they gave her medication that was promoted for constipation due to narcotics. So they created a medication to offset the side effects of a prescription medication. She was on another medication for nausea and vomiting because the medications that she was on, because she was on so many medications, caused gastrointestinal issues,
Yes.
hence causing her to feel nauseous and be vomiting.
Well, that's happening with my adult daughter at the moment, who's on clozapine, and it's causing a laxivity in her whole digestive system from the esophagus to the stomach to the colon. And she's got terrible GERD as a result, and looks like she's 8 months pregnant because everything's swelling up like a big balloon. And she recently vomited up blood. So
Oh,
now they want to do a gastroscopy. So the medical system just keeps intervening and intervening, but never solving the problem. They just make it worse.
unfortunately. And so with this specific patient, we started, for the first 30 days, I typically do not take any medications off because, as we discussed earlier, the clinical endocannabinoid deficiency, we have to replenish and get
Step by
everything up
step.
to a normal level. But she found that within that month, she could stop using her short-acting narcotics or opiates for breakthrough pain. So relatively quickly, she was able to stop taking those medications that she was taking 4 to 6 times a day.
And
So that was eliminated.
titrate down gradually.
Right. Then she noticed that the cannabis was helping with her nausea and vomiting, so she no longer needed the medication for her nausea and vomiting because the cannabis was addressing that issue. So those are two medications that within the first 30 days she was able to eliminate. As time progressed and we started titrating the certain medications down, within 3 months, she was down to 3 medications per day, as
Oh,
opposed to 42 to 58 pills per day. Now, because I am from New York City originally, we tend to lack credence. And as a scientist, my question was, is this truly the medicine? Is this truly the cannabis, or is it a placebo effect? Is it her desire to be off of all of these medications? And so I kept a close eye, close watch on her. And sure enough, months uh, 4, 5, and 6, she had to go back on some of her medications because she came off of them too quickly. And
Mhm.
so we had to ramp back up and go back to conventional treatment, but certainly not as many as when she first started.
Yeah. So
However,
the body adjusts, but it just needs the time.
exactly, it's a slow process. So that was in 2018 when she finally was able to get her medication and in the different modes of administration. And today, she's only using the medical cannabis. She's not on any conventional treatments.
And feeling
She
better.
feels much better. Her husband, once we got her down to practically nothing, with tears in his eyes, he was telling me
Oh,
how he had gotten his wife back and how their children had gotten their mother back. She was not able to work. She then started working, started volunteering at her church in her community, was no longer dictated by her cell phone alarm because she was no longer needing to be taking her medications on a regular routine basis. She was free to live her life, so she got her freedom back.
yes. And all thanks to plant medicine and some good research and how to do it carefully and responsibly with a good coach and a good doctor who understands the system. So we have to come to a close shortly. Where can people find out more, read more, get hold of your book? Obviously, it's about education and just understanding everything better. Where should they go?
My website, josephrosadomd.com. That's josephrosadomd.com. On there, you'll find all my links. You'll find a link to purchase my books there. But I also have a YouTube channel called The Dr. Rosado Show, where I have videos where I speak on the topic of drug-drug interactions because rarely does anyone come to me initially from having a condition or being diagnosed with a condition. They come to me towards the end of their road. And so by the time they come to me, they're on a host of medications.
You get all the people in the too hard basket.
And so for that reason, uh, I have a video on that. I have a video, am I going to get high if I use cannabis? And a host, others as well.
The good
Um,
education. Yeah.
On YouTube, there's other interviews that I've done with a big advocate in the United States called Montel Williams, who had a radio, TV talk show back in the 90s, uh, early mid 90s. So I've got some interviews there, lectures that I've done all over the world. I had the pleasure of back in December of 2019 speaking at in Fiji at the Attorney General's the 21st annual Attorney General's conference where there were between 400 and 500 attorneys, judges, all from the Pacific Rim. So there were some people there from New Zealand, from Australia, as well as Samoa, et cetera. And that was interesting because there were no healthcare professionals there. There were no physicians. It was all legal, all law. And the lecture that I shared with them were the top 10 medical conditions that I see in my practice. And so I gave them an overview of what my medical cannabis practice looked like. And
Wow.
at the end of my talk, the Attorney General and the second in command came to me and they were like, okay, we need to talk a little bit further about how it is that you're making this work and how you're using this in the United States because
Yeah.
that same week, an individual that was caught with, I don't know the exact amount of cannabis, was given 18 years in prison. An individual that same week that had been arrested for sexually abusing a minor for pedophilia was given 16 years.
Mm. There's something not right there. But you're doing a lot of good work, and I wish you so so much good luck and hopefully a lot more support to get this message out there, because everyone needs this extra healing. I think we're in a world which is highly stressed, so we need magnesium, good nutrition, and the ability to have a safe drug, a safe medicine to help the nervous system restore and recover. So thank you so much for all your good work.
Well, I thank you, and I want to acknowledge you for having taken the time to investigate this further, allowing me the platform to speak, to share this with your network. And regarding magnesium, I cannot function without magnesium because I suffer from severe cramps, um, muscular cramps, and it always hits me at
Yeah,
2 or 3 o'clock in the morning
yeah,
when I'm highly stressed and I don't take my
yeah.
magnesium or I don't do my magnesium baths. So thank you for your work.
Yes, you also need to drink more water. Water and magnesium go together.
I do my best. I drink half of my body weight in ounces of water. So I do well with the water. It's just the
Very good.
magnesium that I get so busy that I fail to.
Well, we have magnesium drops you can put in your drinking water. That makes it a lot more convenient. And that low
Okay.
concentration actually does get across the gut wall to the interior and does a lot of good work. Makes the water work a lot better from a hydration capacity.
Well, send me a link, please.
I will do that indeed. And thank you again. Bye
My
bye.
pleasure. Thank you, ma'am.
I hope you liked this conversation and will share it with others. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. If you want to listen to other Body Charge conversations, click like, subscribe, the bell icon, and click all notifications. Subscribe to our newsletter to get updates on blogs, podcasts, videos, and magnesium special offers at electromagnesium.com.au. Relax, recharge, and recover.